What's up, everybody? Coach Kurt here with the Elvis Collie Fight Team. I'm going to be joined by Carlton Doup from the Seattle, Marysville, Balintawak community. I'm going to be talking today about some post-World Camp thoughts, talk about hosting for events, and just overall talk about Fma-Nerdy. So I'm going to bring up my guest here, and here we are. Carlton, homie. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. How are you?
Well, I'm all recovered from my travels down south.
It takes a lot of energy, man. It takes a lot of energy, especially the flying. I don't know why it takes that out of you, man. But I apologize. We got a train going by. Of course, it comes by right when we're starting. It'll hit maybe twice. We'll see.
It's okay. Like one of my cats might sometime come across my screen. So, that happens. So,
nice.
Yeah. Well,
there we go.
Sweet. So I'm going to start sharing this out a little bit. While I'm doing that, Carlton, tell our listeners who you are, what you do, and all that fun shenaniganry.
All that fun stuff. Yeah, Carlton, Marysville Martial Arts. I've been here since about 1996. Did some Korean martial arts, a bunch of Chinese martial arts, a little bit of boxing. Got involved with Balintawak about 6.5, 7 years ago. I don't know the exact date. And that's kind of been all consuming, so that's been my biggest thing lately is just spending a lot of time on that. And it's fun just watching how it changes the stuff I taught before. I'm a big fan of letting everything influence everything else and not being stagnant or stuck. And so, that's pretty much it, man. We have a school here in Marysville, a decent student base, allows me and my crew to work full time at this and not have to come here from a job and do it. So we're pretty blessed, man. We're pretty lucky. That's
awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about your school. Cause dude, your facility is awesome. We all talk about, we've all been to the dojo, the gym, the club that's in the bottom of the church at the community rec center, trying to etch out a school. Even the photo for the background that I have is my old gym. It was in the basement of a mall. But your facility, dude, hats off. You have racks of weapons everywhere. You have a beautiful floor, the layout. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous facility, dude.
A lot of it's luck. A lot of it's just time. I started this school in 96. I was leasing about a third of the building. Old tin siding. The building was decrepit. The other 2/3 was a car dealership and then a detail shop. Which I never saw them clean a single car, but there were a lot of people in and out.
Well,
I lived upstairs for the first 9 years in this little bitty room, and our stock room now was half bathroom, half kitchen. We called it our bitchen.
Yeah.
But it was home from day one because right when I opened the school, I had nothing, man. So I was living up there with a cot and a sleeping bag,
Yeah.
It's very much I always treated it like home, and then years later, we were able to buy the rest of the place. And my goal was to lease for 10 years and then buy it. It took me 11 years, that one extra year. It still drives me nuts, but it's always been home. So I just treat it like I would a home,
Yeah, so you remember that Jason Scott Lee movie where it's Dragon, the story of Bruce Lee?
Yeah.
He's living in the schoul. You literally did that. And,
man. No, it was nuts.
Seeing where you're at now, dude, it's an awesome facility. I will pop up a video, the video that I shot at the school later on my page so everybody will see what I'm getting at. But there is, it's hard to really describe how awesome your facility is. So my congratulations for living the dream.
Right on, man. It is a dream. I'm absolutely blessed. So
yeah. So Carl, this is two Fma-Nerds talking about FMA and stuff, but you do other things other than FMA. Let's kind of get into that. What is your other backgrounds? Some of the other lineages and things, because you, like me, came into Balintawak later in life from other backgrounds. So can you speak to that for a little bit?
Absolutely. So my first art in the early 90s is a hybrid style, Korean style called Cheong Musul. And it did a Taekwondo, Hapkido, some elements of Kung Fu, ton of weapons, wilderness survival training. There was a lot involved with it. And that style was actually created by a gentleman named Won Cook Kim, who's the son of Bookman Kim, which was like the general's right-hand man when it came to the formation of Taekwondo in the beginning. So it was a blend of a lot of different stuff, which was great. And unfortunately, later in life, as time went on, I realized he was a garbage human being.
Yeah.
He was an amazing martial artist. He really was. And his biggest focus was on kind of like Dr. Kelly Warden. What are the theories, the principles, the move? What are the things that tie everything together? Not what makes everything different, what makes it the same.
Yep.
And so from the very beginning, my eye has always been on everything new you learn. How does it integrate? How does it work together? How is it the same? So when I kind of discovered what kind of person he was, I had already kind of started going off and learning some Chin style Tai Chi, some Kung Fu. He's one of those traditional guys. If you leave this school, if you learn from anybody else, you're a traitor. It's only one way. You learn this way or you get out. And so I started kind of sneakily learning stuff. And so when I left his organization, I started more on the Northern Shaolin, which I've been learning. I just used the same teaching methodology. What are the theories, the principles, the ideas that bind everything together? But instead of using like his Taekwondo forms as a base, I was using the Northern Shaolin because frankly, I liked it more at the time.
Well, the fact is, Northern Shaolin kicking styles influences Taekwondo for people who don't know. It does. So
people don't get that. So and then I was lucky enough to train Chin style Tai Chi with a lady named Madame Gao Fu for about 5 years. She was absolutely amazing. And then some boxing stuff like that, and then I was kind of on an island for almost a decade. I felt like I was on this island up here in Marysville. Not a lot of other people around. It was still this time where, like, now the martial arts are so open. The internet kind of forced that. There is no more I have secret techniques or my way. That's all kind of gone away, right?
Yep.
So I'm up here on this island, and I had this one of my first students' name was Alvin. I swear to God, he would stop by like once a year. You have to check out Balintawak. You have to check out Balintawak. And then like once every few months, check it out, check it out, check it out, check it out. And finally, man, I just wanted Alvin to stop bugging me, man. Dude, okay, I'll go look. And G and Bobby was having a West Coast camp. I don't know if it's 16 or 17. I can't remember what year. Down at a place called MKG. Okay. I'm like, fine, I'll go watch this thing. I had a back injury I was coming out of, so I couldn't even participate. I'll go watch this thing for a couple hours. Just okay. Then Alvin will leave me alone about this Balintawak. And I stood there, sat there, watched the whole 8 hours, just enthralled, man.
Yeah.
Not just the technique, but like you had mentioned earlier, we talked about, you're looking at this floor of people. I didn't know Belton at the time. I didn't know Chester at the time. I didn't know any of these people at the time. But you'll watch them, you're like, these people have a lot of skill. Like these people are not just stick fighting dudes. These guys, they have a lot of different diverse backgrounds. And I love that. But what I loved even more, it wasn't, this is my background. Oh, I'm this. You would almost have to pry it out of them. What else do you do? That there was no egos, no chest thumping, no bad attitudes. It's like people would come over and introduce themselves. I'm just some dude they never met, just sitting off on the side of watching. They're coming over to meet me. It's like, wow, it's the community, man. It blew me away. It's like so I've been part of a lot of different communities in the martial arts, and it's just different. It's different. You don't get those looks like, who's this guy when you walk? And they're like, oh, who's that? Somebody new.
Well, like the lack of ego. I mean, every system has ego, but like the genuine, like Pura Familia, Tribal, Ohana, like just that we're here because we love what we do and we love the man that has brought this to us. Because like the dichotomy between instructional levels, because like what is a constant problem or potential problem in any endeavor that has a singular leader is this potentiality for like a cult of personality. And like, let's flat out call it a cult. There is just that real risk. And I mean, martial arts is a cult in a lot of ways. Just is. It's a pyramid scheme. Just is. But depending upon how you treat it, it can be problematic or it can be proactive and beautiful. So like comparatively to like your two instructors that you've had, because like G and Bobby versus your Korean martial arts instructor, like it's a world of difference.
Massive. Yeah, and it's about the character. You know, one guy is here out wanting to promote and grow the art, and then this other guy is watering down the art so we can get more people testing quicker, so we can get those belt fees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like my first black belt test, it was a 12-hour physical test from 10 at night till 10 in the morning.
Yep.
I had to write this thick paper. I had to take this long written exam. Had to go out into the wilderness to prove your chops out there. The last one I saw was 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like, and that's when I knew, man. It's like you're more interested in that than actually promoting an art.
Yeah, it's the buy-in, which is really funny. Like the difference between the idea of the buy-in. So you got the buy-in of the community, like buying into the community, the culture, and like what the community has to offer, the beauty, the love, and the enjoyment of the art. Then you got the buy-in for the belt. And too often with like what happened back in the 90s and the 2000s with the belt factories, that's the buy-in everybody kind of knows.
Mm-hmm.
And like with the Balintawak community, that's a completely different setup because the buy-in is we love what we do, we love the people around us, and that's really more important than the actual martial art. And that's the thing that I really appreciate about it.
It's true, man. Because I tell you what, I've probably gained more from just the feeling of family with the people in Balintawak than I will probably ever have to apply self-defense skills in real life, right? It's like,
like just even the simple quote that like the past two, like every time I've interacted with G and Bobby, and like G and Bobby has a speech about who he is, where he came from, and like the things that are very important to him about Balintawak. But the thing that I really appreciate in his speeches is that this is play. This is not fighting. And that right there already encourages like people who are new to the martial arts, and especially to the Filipino martial arts, because the majority of the Filipino martial arts is about killing. It just is.
stabby, killy, yeah.
Stabby, kill is warfare. And with that, it still trains for warfare, like the special operations. It's just there is that the barrier to entry is so high because of this threshold of violence that it engenders a certain type of character and people to it that are professionally involved with it or have some personal issues. But with like the Balintawak community, because it's not intended to be combative and war driven, it's about play and fun and attribute development. It allows for people who are new to the martial arts and new to the Filipino martial arts to actually learn the culture, the community, rather than the combat. And the combat really is not the important part there.
So, I really like that you're saying that, because sometimes people are so focused on the what if, what about the kill and this and that the attributes get missed.
Yeah.
And you've got all this technique, but you're so focused on the singular thing that just the general attributes can get missed. I think it's easier to teach somebody that has great attributes a technique versus attributes to people that only have like I don't know how to say it, but
like the idea of close the gap and be violent is really the basis of combat. So, but with Balintawak, the complexity of it, of like speed and timing alone and body positioning alone, like evident with like that demo that Chun did with his blindfolded, that is a testament to like the skill, like just flat out the skill of those who participate in this structure. And that is, it's amazing. Now, for people who have that like uninformed, like ego-driven mentality to look at it like, oh, they're just playing. It's like, well, that's the point. They are playing, and they're exemplifying that skill. So,
it's fun how that play can come out.
Oh yeah,
when you're playing a bit more aggressively, it comes out. So,
well, it's like the magician. So like Datu Kelly calls GM Bobby the magician. So like the old like classical martial arts master of like that we see in the movies, like the Shaw Brother movies, where you see this old man who can do incredibly Yoda-like stuff. Like let's face it, those sneaky little bits of attributes that happen by speed, positioning, and just like experience. That's the magic of martial arts. And it's not chi balls, it's just experience and skill. And for somebody who's new coming into it, it can come off as mystical, but it's still just cool anyways.
Yeah.
Because like when he sneaks in the slap or the ear flick, all those like little things that each one does, it's great. So, Well, yeah. So let's. So you hosted this year. Have you hosted before, or?
I've never hosted this. I hosted in 2019 a Supreme Grandmaster, Kim Bookman,
Yeah.
one of the founders of Taekwondo. Hosted him, and that was kind of a big deal. It was not as big of an overall event though.
Yeah.
And then I was able to host GM Nene from California. He was here
Oh, nice.
for a weekend once, but none of it was one nearly as many people. Didn't
Yeah.
have all the the extracurricular activities afterwards,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a new experience hosting something that was considerably larger, and it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. So, like the theme, I guess, or the topic of this episode is talking about hosting and post like event thoughts. For a lot of things I talk about is like the things that all coaches think about and all facility owners and anybody who's like in leadership thinks about, but we don't actually get to say it. So I give an opportunity to say that. So like, what are some of the things that you had to work through in one, like getting the facility up and going, or even better yet, just having the opportunity to host? I mean, did you ask Goro John, or did they approach you, or?
It was just an offhanded comment. We'd had I think we had a mini camp here before. I can't remember. Yeah, we did have a mini camp here once, and
Mhm.
the testing to follow. And I was the only guy testing entire this panel and all these people. That was nerve wracking. But that, but whenever we go to these things, I just let them know, hey, I've got a space. It's open. Once I'm in with folks, it's like I said, it's home. So I like to invite people into my home. So I'm like, hey, if you ever need the space, let me know. Let's see what we can make happen. He
Yeah.
mentioned, oh, I don't think it's big enough for the Saturday. I'm like, well, 2 blocks away, there's a middle school. I know the lady in charge of scheduling. Let me call her, see what we can do.
Yeah.
And so then it just kind of worked out. So it was kind of an offhanded, open invitation. It wasn't like can I host camp? Can I host camp? Can I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey, man, if you want to do it, we're here. So that's just kind of how it came up, and just real natural, real easy, which is, I think, the way it needs to be.
Yeah. Because I mean, compare. So I've only been to 2 of these so far. I've only had the opportunity, but like even last year compared to this year, I mean, it literally seemed like that the participation doubled.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
last year's West Coast camp?
yeah, because I mean, at Belton's gym, Belton's gym is a pretty large facility in of
It is.
itself. But even then, it was filled to the brim.
It
And then
was.
when we did the camp this year at the junior high school, I mean, there was a ton of people there, and it seemed like there was like twice the amount of what there was the
There
year
were,
before.
I'd have, I don't know the actual numbers. I haven't asked Guru
Yeah,
John, hey, what was last year? What was this year? But I also think the same amount of people in a larger space can still look like more people. It's like you have an
yeah,
empty room, it looks small. You throw a couch in there, the room looks big.
yeah.
So maybe that was some of it, but it does feel like there were some more people there. But that could be perception. I have no idea.
I mean, we had some distant travelers. I mean, we had Guru Peter. I mean, we had Guru Jun and his crew. I mean, we had people like from
Michael
Italy.
Nitz from Germany. That was
Yeah,
cool.
we had Germany, we had Italy, we had Canada. I mean, Alaska is kind of like another country, but I don't really count. But I mean, there was a ton of people from all over the place. It was really cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about it. There's always seems to be that draw. There always
Yeah,
seems to be that's how you know it's a cool thing, man.
yeah. So with like hosting, you want to talk about after the event, like our evening fun? Because really, what's most important about Filipino martial arts gatherings is after the fact, is the meal. So
Right? We got lucky on the meal, man. We were trying to get these other folks that do some really good Hawaiian food at some of our other camps, our
yeah,
smaller camps, and they just weren't available. They were going to be gone.
yeah,
Turns out 12 minutes up the street from me, there's a Cebuano place.
nice.
There's our train again. Yeah, and we went there and tried the food, and it was phenomenal. And he's like, well, I don't usually do catering. It's not my thing. So I say, hey, it was for G and Bobby, Bobby Taboada.
Mhm.
He's from Cebu. We talked about it. He's like, I'll do it for you.
Sweet.
So we just lucked out there, man. That was, yeah.
That was excellent. So the trays that you had, I mean, it's not a Filipino gathering without leftovers. So what happened to all the leftovers?
We have somebody here, a young man who works for us. He is the oldest of 8, I think 9 siblings now.
Yeah.
And they're not down on their luck, but they're not riding high on the horse either, right?
We
So we
got
said,
8 kids
hey,
at home.
you guys want this food? They're like, yes, please. So we took it over there, and literally the whole family's waiting outside to greet us when we get there. So
Nice. That's awesome.
it went to some folks that really needed it. So, and of course, I took a little bit of lumpia home. I took a couple of little bits myself. One thing we always do kind of a debrief with my crew and my wife. And the one thing I'm going to do different next year is they have those styrofoam containers for taking, like at the restaurant, you want leftovers. We're going to have it there. So if there's leftovers, people can take a plate.
I mean, it's not a proper Filipino gathering without the leftovers. So, it's like, I mean, for people who weren't there, because I mean, there was a lot of people who didn't make it to the after event. I mean, we're hanging out, eating, karaoke. I mean, that's a level of Filipino that I haven't really achieved yet, and don't even think I will. But yeah, like watching G and Bobby do karaoke was
phenomenal. That was phenomenal. And that was again one of those things. I know nothing about karaoke.
Yeah.
So I asked a friend, man, what do you know about karaoke? He said, oh, call this guy. He's Filipino. Oh, that's right. So I called my other buddy up and, oh, yeah, I'll bring you a system. Then as a backup, I asked another guy, oh, yeah, I'll bring you a system. So then a day I had these two. So I'm like, this is too easy, man.
Yeah.
My wife's a musician, so we had an amp. It was just, there we go.
Sweet. Yeah, it's like I said, it's not a proper gathering without that popping out. So it was, and that also like talks to like the character and like the type of person that G and Bobby really is. It's like he's not so high on his like sense of self that he's not approachable, and that he's also not living on a pedestal of like, these are my people, they worship me. Because like we see that in the martial arts often, but with him it's not the case. He's willing to hang out with you, have a meal, he's willing to sit there and sing with you and cut up with you, and it's really special.
A couple of things about that is one of my younger guys came up to me and said, oh, I went up to meet G and Bobby, and I was kind of nervous to introduce myself. He's like, oh, hey, I'm Bobby.
Yeah.
That's it. None of this. Like Korean martial arts, you're not even supposed to offer to shake another master's hand unless they offer it first, and then you do all your stuff, and then
there's one
step back and turn properly, And the first gathering I went to, they said, oh, there's going to be a dinner tonight. Okay, cool. We go to this dinner. There's some empty seats sitting there. GM's not there yet. He just comes in, sits down next to me. Within like 5 minutes, he's like leaning against me, just talking to me like I'd known him for years, man. So I think that's where I think that shapes a lot of the attitude in the group as a whole. Just seeing a guy that's been around this long, that's this good, this skilled, this knowledgeable, and it's not gone to his head at all.
Well, it's like the thing of like people who don't have anything to prove. At this point in his life, I mean, even like 30 years ago, G and Bobby had nothing to prove. And that humility and that beautiful humility has allowed him to like just share the beautiful part of him without having to deal with like the egotistical, like, I am the character of this, that, and the other head of this system. And it's like,
the only thing I've heard him brag about is about how handsome he is.
Oh yeah, but that's perfectly fine because he is.
Fair.
So and like I've said in other, it's really special because you don't get to see that often. I know it happens in other systems, but like the way that the internet is, and the way that like the internet martial arts community and like the FMA community is, you have characters, and you have people who have like, they're beholden to those characters and the ego, and like very rarely, unless you actually get to sit there and hang out with them, you get to see them drop the facade. If there is one. And with G and Bobby, I haven't seen like it's an actual facade. It's because there isn't. It's just like, this is him. It's kind of like Datu Kelly. Datu Kelly is very much like, well, I'm kind of foul mouthed. I don't give a fuck. So here we are.
And it works. It works beautifully. Just being genuine. I think the word authentic, especially in this internet age and influencers, authenticity is just, the word is overused, but that's what it is. Just genuine, authentic, kind,
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's one thing, like I said, I appreciate. So, like, with the event and the camps, like, what are like things that you would look forward to for next year? Or are you hosting next year? Or
I don't know. I know G and Bobby had mentioned an opportunity to host some stuff. That would be cool. I'm always open to it. I always love bringing people here. I'm not one of these mystical voodoo kind of guys, but I also believe a lot in, what you put out comes back. And I believe energy sticks around, man. So having that many people at my school train, like Friday night for the instructor thing, Sunday for testing, I feel like to some degree, some of that sticks around. You know, it's just so I'm always open to the idea of having great folks come here. I love the idea because it's fun, and like I said, it's like a home.
Yeah.
You know, I want to share this place. You know, my wife, gosh, she stepped up. She's watched me do this Balintawak, watch how it changed kind of, you know, just even my mindset and my motivation. I was at a point where I was thinking of just closing the school down and leasing out the building at one point, like before Balintawak came along. But she'd never been to an event, right?
Yeah.
She came, was like blown away. So she, you know, I think she mentioned yesterday she's still going through withdrawals.
Yeah.
Right. So I hope we get to host again, but because it's fun, you know, it's like, the biggest thing, and so she stepped in, and gosh, she was phenomenal. When you saw, we had the whole old-fashioned bar.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting right next to her for like most of the evening.
Yeah, she's like, "Hey, can I do an old-fashioned bar?" Yes. There's a story behind that, how that came about. I mean, it's Balintawak's fault that I even started drinking bourbon, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And so she got involved, man. She just made it so much more fun. I mean, it would not have been as much fun without my wife, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get for the chance to have fun again, and the rest of it's pretty easy, you know. Hosting like the day of, okay, we have a space. What do you guys? You don't have to worry about teaching; they're doing all the work. It's like, all I have to do is make them feel comfortable, make them feel at home coming in, so that all they have to focus on is what they're teaching, not have to worry about other stuff.
Yeah, it was really cool, like just the way the format this year. I mean, it's only my second time to show up to West Coast, but like the format this year was really cool for the first section where it was like all the FQI spending 10 minutes and showcasing who they are and what they do. And you get to see like the variety of different mentalities, but you get to see like the commonality, bringing it back together to the grouping system and building off of it. It's like it's FMA puzzle work, which is really cool.
It is, and I really like how, especially this year, they kind of built off each other's techniques. Okay, you know, he was working from here, so now I'm going to work from that same spot, just so it for the students, especially the newer ones, it didn't become overcomplicated.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. You know, I like that format a lot. I've seen it a couple times, and one of my favorite things is seeing what all the other folks are doing. That's
right, and see how they move and adapt to it. Because like in my case, I'm very level 0 when it comes to Balintawak. I mean, there's that, and like so the thing that I run into is like the grouping systems. I don't know like the actual order of operations to the pattern. Yeah. But I mean, I know the movements because I've done the movements for however long I've been doing FMA. It's just like trying to figure out like at what point in the sequence is the tricky part. But once I like figure it out, like, okay, here's the draw and entry, here we go. It's like, oh, this is very familiar. And that's the cool part that I find with people who have also with other backgrounds that they're able to address that as well. And because like you see in some martial arts, like you have to do the very regimented, do A, B, and C to get to answer whatever. And they don't have the very plug and play mentality. So
That's it.
Buddy Peter. He is a fun videographer and FMA practitioner as well. He's based out of Canada. So Balinto, so you were talking about like stepping away from martial arts entirely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was close, man.
Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, you know, and I think it's a common thing. And again, it's one of those things that a lot of instructors, I think, don't talk about. So we almost need a support group for martial arts instructors, I think. Because I think we're all a little bit off to begin with. That's how we wound up here. And the way we cope with things sometimes isn't always the best. Sometimes we can be all or nothing, a little less nuanced than we should be. But I started under one system, left that. I was young. You know, I opened this school when I was 23, man. I wish I could go back to that because I knew so much more then than I do now, man. I had it figured out then. Looking back, God, I was ill prepared, right? Kind of got thrust into it and my own doing, but I got thrust into it and then kind of got disenfranchised by this isn't just about martial arts. It's about how much money can I make off of this. And here's the ways to make all the money. And here's the testing fees and this scam and that scam and contracts of this and that. And so I got away from that and was kind of built my program up, was doing good. But like I said, all my teachers either died or moved away or was such ill character, I would never go back to them. And I was on this island and we're still kind of in this place where there's more tribalism, I guess. People weren't getting as open.
Yeah.
MMA was getting big, so there's all this self-doubt coming from like more traditional or process-oriented, you know, type arts, and so the insecurity creeps in, and just the burnout, the grind of how many students did we lose this month? How many do we need to get back? Because you're always going to lose folks. Just that constant thing. Oh, we need just the business side of it. It just And I love business. I'm part owner of several other business sites. It's something I love to do as much as martial arts, but it was different. It was just burned out, man. I was sick of it. I was like, I'm over this thing, man. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons I finally gave into Alvin to go watch.
Yeah.
But I knew instantly, I'm like, I found a tribe, man. I found some really cool people here.
Yeah.
And that just reignited it. And now you can see the Balintawak and everything else I do. Yeah. Because I'm not afraid to change the way I teach something. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say, well, this is the traditional way. This is the way I've always taught this, like I've always been a big nunchuck guy. Before the digital age, I was working on a DVD set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I'll forget that. I don't want to mess with that anymore. Looking back, it would have been so bad. The production would have been so bad.
As long as you're not the kid who did the backflip and knocked himself out with the nunchucks. You remember that video back in the 90s?
Tryout video, yeah, I do remember that was golden. But even the way I play that has changed. And that's something that I spent a ton of time doing. So much time that it was so ingrained the way I did it. That I know it's kind of, and like I said, the big thing, and this is really good for my ADD mind, is he approached everything with that quintata mindset, counter for counter, move for move, and that's a puzzle you're never going to finish.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a puzzle guy, so that it's got me sucked right back in, man. It got me right back to where I needed to be. It brought that balance back. It brought that martial arts side back. It brought that learning side back. And if you're a martial artist and you're not learning, you're dying. If
you're not, it's stagnation is death.
That was kind of the deal, man. And so, Balintawak did a lot for me. And I had outs, I had bought the property. Like, well, if I close down, I could lease this building out. No problem. So I had a way out. But they sucked me back in, man.
You got reinvigorated. And that's the beauty of what changing what you do, changing it up is really important, because the fact is, like I said before, stagnation is death. I mean, being a big nerd that I am and a big reader of Dune, I mean, that leads to obliteration, which is absolute death. So we have to change stuff up, because we get burnt out on the stuff that we did before, especially if it was toxic. And taking a break is great, because in my case, it took like a 4-year break after I shut my gym down. And now that I'm back in a different form, I'm reinvigorated as to I've done the work to find the joy in this and doing this as joy. And now I can just play. And the fact that the community that I'm joining in is sharing love and enjoyment of what we do. And Balintawak encourages the play in the community. It's not so much close the gap, stab, kill, here we go. Because that's not the way. If with Balintawak, it forces you to sit there and play with your friend.
Forcing you to have fun.
Yeah, it's collaborative. It's a game of speed and positioning. It's kind of like how I view with jujitsu. Jujitsu is very much sit there and play. I mean, it can be very combative, but the fact is, when you tap out or get knocked out, it's you start all over again. It's not leading to the end result is I've stabbed you and now you're dead. So and with that, and with it, that's it's really refreshing to have a Filipino martial art, or just a martial art in general, that encourages play and creativity and camaraderie, rather than combative efficacy and efficiency, because that window is so small anyways, and there's so much ego attached to this, where if it's play, it's fun, it encourages growth. So, and that's
not just on the individual level, but I think on an organizational level, if everyone realizes we can just have fun, it kind of keeps those bad egos in check or away, or eventually we see them kind of disappear,
That's really cool. So, and I'm really grateful to have brought into this community, especially coming late and also being displaced and cut off, so to speak, from the people. And it's really enjoyable. I mean, this is my annual thing to look forward to all year round.
Was this your second year coming?
Yeah, I was intending to come down sooner, but like I said, like when it shut down and then 4 years and plus like the pandemic disallowed me from doing stuff. But now that I have the means and the time, I can, and this is what I really look forward to.
World Camp. You gonna try and go to World Camp?
I'm gonna try to. It's just like I have to like work out the balance between my wife and my kids as to like they like to go do stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I need to like figure out a year that I can go to World Camp because like some of the other stuff I need to go do is like I need to go down and do like a sheepdog response training. I need to go down to do Tricom with Jared Wihongi. Like I have stuff I need to do, but
Yeah.
World Camp is on my list. So
Nice. That's a
yeah,
fun one, man.
yeah. Because like I understand like these camps like what is the like the West Coast and World Camp are like the two major Balintawak gatherings, correct?
Did I? Yeah, I know there's a DC camp. I've never
Yeah,
been. That one's pretty cool.
yeah,
But yeah, those are the two that those seem those are the two I've been to. So that's
yeah,
really all I can speak on. But I know there's some I've missed that have driven me nuts. That I've wanted to go.
yeah. That's fun. So looking forward, I mean, what are you looking forward to when it comes to like your progress in your journey with martial arts, Balintawak, or just life in general? So
I think one of the cool things is, as I was going through the school here, people come, people go. I had a right hand man for a long time who's just absolutely amazing. And he kind of moved off and started his own businesses and stuff. We're still very much in touch. I mean, he's one of the guys at my wedding, so we're still very, very tight, right?
good.
And then I got to the point where I could teach this whole Balintawak thing. And
Yeah,
then suddenly he came back, and then this person, and this person. So all these faces from the past are all kind of coming back. And, most people watching this probably know by now with Balintawak to get to level from 6 to 7, you've got to bring somebody up to level 6.
yep,
So it kind of forces you to teach it.
yeah,
If you want to progress in it. And, something G and Bobby says a ton is, learn to teach to learn. And so I'm teaching my class, a couple times a week, like 4 classes a week in the mornings now. And just the amount I'm learning just from teaching. And we know as martial artists, we know this, but it forces you to, oh, I don't know that. Let me ask this question. It teaches you which questions to ask, first of all.
yep,
Again, like anything, helps you realize how little you do know. So I absolutely love that.
yep,
And then just watching them grow just exponentially, man. It's just, like I said, this Balintawak thing, I was burned out on teaching even for a while. It's like,
yeah,
it's brought back just this absolute fire for teaching again. So honestly, just keep teaching, get some folks up to that point, keep developing my techniques. I mean, sure, yeah, I'll get to level 7 FQI at some point. For me, it's not about the numbers or the letters. It's just about just keep going.
right.
Going. So really, I can't wait to see until one of my students becomes an FQI and brings somebody up to 6. I want to see, how the different stuff I've taught them affects, and the stuff they know affects that next person down the line, So that's all I want to see, just continued growth, keep pushing, keep going, keep learning, keep having fun. What's up, June?
What's up, buddy?
Always good to see that guy. Really, hey, thanks for coming, man. It's blessed to have you here. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, it was actually great to finally meet him because he and I have been like Facebook bromancing for a while. So as one does.
He's very romanceable, I hear.
He really is.
But yeah, to just keep on that path, man. Just keep going. And honestly, like, GM says about promoting the art, he told his grandmasters he wants to promote the art. I'm the same way, I clearly will never do as much as this man did, but the more I can put it out there to promote it, things I love, I want to see them grow.
Right. And like and that's the cool thing about like martial arts mastery. It's not just like the efficacy and efficiency. It's like the dedication to time and actually carrying the banner forward. Because like starting out as little white belts as a teenager, I mean, how many of your friends that you started out with in the martial arts are still there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Very few.
Yeah, and like I said, so many of these things die. They're held on to so tightly. That's why I love that GM is just so open and spreading this thing. Because frankly, there's some arts out there that you see that once 1 or 2 links in that chain are gone, that art is going to be gone.
Yep. That's a constant conversation, like within the FMA community. Like, how many things are dying off?
Mm-hmm.
And a part of that system is like holding on to the secret style, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, well, if you're not teaching, you're not sharing, you're not progressing, and then you're leaving that to wither and die, and that's sad.
Like, you can't spread seeds and not want people to enjoy the fruit. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
has to go hand in hand. So that's
yeah,
another one of the things I just love about this art is he just wants it to spread. He wants it to be there when he's gone.
yeah.
That's an important thing. Legacy. I mean, people that have this desire to leave a legacy behind, you can just see it in their intent, their purpose, their everything they do, and
Yeah.
they're always just a little bit above folks that are like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen when I die.
Right. And like the thing with G and Bobby, he's got the infrastructure that I believe with his panel of FQIs all over the world, that if and when that does occur, he's going to be left in good hands. Because like seeing some of the stuff with some of the other organizations that the figurehead has passed and moved on, and there's a lot of the break apart.
There's folks out there waiting to split.
Yeah.
You know, that's again, it all goes back to that community he's created, that family he's created. Yeah. Everybody, it genuinely feels like everybody's working together. And I've only ever, I think, seen one person that didn't have that vibe, and that person's not around anymore because they're not working for the family.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing about like social organizational structure will weed out those who actually maintain to the social contract, and they'll weed themselves out. Because like the fact is, if you're toxic and the community doesn't abhor or doesn't agree with toxicity, they'll eventually leave themselves away. And that's something that like a younger self that I really wish like if I could go back and say, hey, you whoever you were at that young age of 20 years old, and have that conversation with that young man, it's like, well, that would be a big one about like, don't embrace toxicity. Don't embrace like those who are going to be vampires and time and yes men and all that. Like, see beyond the scope of who you are or who you're wanting to be, and look at the bigger picture here. So,
and the social contract within the Balintawak community is really simple.
Yeah, don't be an asshole.
Beginning and end of every class. From my heart, you're welcome with respect. Make people feel welcome. Make them feel respected. That's really not a hard thing to do. The only thing that stops you from doing that is ego or something.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bit of ethos. So like telling your younger self, I mean, what are some of the younger things that you would like to say to your younger self coming into the martial arts, coming into the business of martial arts?
Get out there and meet more people. Like I said, I was on an island for darn near a decade. And a lot of that was, I think a lot of that was the martial arts culture at the time, because everyone still was very closed off. And but a lot of that was me just being afraid. Maybe it was ego too. Like, why am I going to go learn from this guy when I've already learned from this guy? So dropping that ego and dropping that fear and just kind of letting the guard down. And like I said, when I watched the Balintawak community for the first time at that camp, literally the guard just dropped. These people are open. So honestly, be more open myself early on. I think there's other things I could have picked up and learned and experienced. I didn't start trying jiu-jitsu till I was in my 40s, and by then my knees were jacked up. It was so brutal to even I'd limp around for 3 days after every session,
Yeah,
and that's
like doing a knee drop.
Why didn't I jump on that sooner? I could have been at that a decade earlier. When I was healthier. So I have to tell my young self, drop the ego, drop the fear, just be uncomfortable more.
Yeah.
And whether it's martial arts or learning business from other people, or there's so much to learn in all areas, and all of it is an art. So
I mean, the art of learning and having the freedom from our ego and our negative thoughts is, I mean, that's a lot that comes to us late in life, if it ever does for some people. So, and it's beautiful when we actually hit that point of enlightenment. So,
and I know I preached it, but I don't think I was listening to myself.
Right, like this idea of vulnerability is weakness, but the fact is vulnerability is strength, because if you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you're allowed to actually be open and drop that ego. So it's an interesting thing that coming to later in life, where one doesn't have anything to prove necessarily, and then they can just like have a good time.
Yeah. And just understanding that anything you try to prove, you're going to probably mess up anyway. Enjoy the freaking flaws, man. Don't stop. And I used to hold myself to the standard. If it's not perfect, I can't show it. It's like, God, what an idiot I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, show those flaws. That's how you fix them. That's how you get other input, other feedback, So yeah, drop the ego, drop the fear. That's the thing, man. If you can get rid of those, I think you're unstoppable.
Agreed. So, like, what are your thoughts for like the FMA community moving forward? Like, what are those things that you think that could help the FMA community moving forward in the next 10 to 20 years, um, to build more of a camaraderie and like acceptance? Because I mean, we have a really great model clearly with the Balintawak community, but like from your viewpoint as well, what do you think we could do better as an overall FMA community?
Follow that model. If
Yeah.
you see something that's working really well, you don't say, "Oh, hey, how can I do that same thing differently?" It's like if that's what you're trying to do it.
Yeah.
Like call GM Bobby, go to one of his things, ask him, "How did you get the community to be this way?" He's going to tell you the same thing he stands up there and tells everybody all the time,
Yeah.
So just look at the people that are doing it, have that open attitude and follow it. Because without that, I think long term, like I said, a lot of these arts, not just Filipino arts, just across the board, are
Yep.
going to burn out. Or like I said, it just becomes these little exclusive cults because of the ego, because of all that. It all comes down to ego every time, whether it's with yourself or others. So
Ego is the enemy.
follow the pattern that's already there. And then once you learn the pattern, then break the pattern, then start doing it differently. But look at GM's pattern. How does he create these friendly things? I've heard people and seen people online kind of talk trash about GM.
Yeah.
That's out there. And he doesn't feed into it.
No, because he doesn't care.
Say, hey, go do his Balintawak, come do my Balintawak, decide. Like, don't feed into it. Just let that crap go, just be welcoming. So I think that's what everything needs in general. And I've seen it a lot. Honestly, I'm not in the jiu-jitsu community by any means, but I see it a lot in the jiu-jitsu community around here.
Yeah.
I know people are different schools, but they seem to always be at other people's schools training and doing stuff.
Yeah.
And then they've been competing against each other. I think some of them are starting to figure it out too. So
Yeah, like the thing that I ran into, so like when I was coaching boxing and Muay Thai and MMA, I mean, Alaska's fight community is really, really small because I mean, we have a population overall of like less than 1 million. So even though we're spread out, we know everybody. So when we had the fight promotion and working with other promotions, like we're sharing the same athletes at each promotion, and we relied on the infrastructure and support of the other gyms to make things happen. So we had a little bit of rivalries of like my gym versus your gym because we needed it on the card. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, everybody was friends, and it worked out that way. It was collaborative.
That can be healthy to a point. That's needed to a point. It's like you want to show up your friends a little bit, but only so you can nudge them and got you. That's it. That's it.
Well, like we had like in some cases some fighters that fought my guys and vice versa. Like we had like 3 rematches with one of my pro fighters. Like he fought this one kid 3 times, but they tried different things. Like they started off as boxing, did a Muay Thai fight, did an MMA fight, and like they were like coming back to each other at it each season, trying to see who got better at what. And that right there is healthy and that's fun.
Yep, and they both probably grew exponentially because of that. So
yeah, and it's really cool to see that. And that was removing of the ego of like, hey, we're just here celebrating each other's progress and growth, and that's really special. And it's really important versus like the mentality of we're a killing art and we're here to show you how better we are at theoretically killing people. It's just that's not healthy. So
no, because theoretically, I have no desire to go kill somebody. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's also like having that honesty with ourselves as FMA practitioners, I think is really important to like remove a lot of that ego of like, how often are we really going to be engaged in this high level of violence with an edged weapon, unless we're in a profession that requires us to be. But like the average citizen showing up to the gym, I mean, how often do they actually do that?
And if not, ego gets other people hurt and yourself.
Yeah.
The worst I've ever been injured is because I was showing off.
Yeah.
Unneeded. It's like, why am I doing this? And the worst injury, Yeah.
Yeah.
Let that shit go, man.
Oh yeah, yes. Ego is the biggest
Yeah, you
enemy.
see it all the time. Just they would let this stuff, and then I think a lot of it comes again. I think especially some of the old school folks, they still have this mindset that the stuff they're teaching is somehow secret. It's like
Humans. So here's my two Fs. Humans figured out how to fuck and fight long ago, and we're always constantly trying to figure out like if we're better at one to allow for the other, because this is that issue of like conditional valuation of if we're good at one, that means we're going to be good at the other and have more opportunity at the other. But I mean, that's a baseline human condition. But like in a modern sense, like we can't just rely on just that efficacy to leave valuation to the other. That's really hard because we don't need to have like combat prowess to prove like we can defend the tribe necessarily to make sure we have our little harem. That's not reality. So
that's it, man.
No, well, it's funny. So I mean, I don't know how much time you got left.
I'm actually running up on my limit.
Yeah. So I appreciate you hanging out with us. Like you said, we really didn't have a format. I mean, the idea was we're going to talk about the camp and like just stuff in general. So I would love to have you back on again. I know I'm going to see you next year. I don't know if I'm going to see you at Water and Steel because you said you have a family gathering there. But I mean, we can
hopefully the year after that. If he's still doing it the year after that, that's a priority for me. So
absolutely. But as like I said, the cool thing about the community is we have the online community and continuing to have that positive and healthy friendship. So I really appreciate you.
Cool, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us. I'm going to drop Carlton down and do my outro. And yeah.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Appreciate you. Alrighty. So yeah, everybody, that was Carlton Doup from the Balintawak community down there in Marysville. It was a great time. I really appreciate him, and I really appreciate this community. As one of the things I've always said is that it's kind of like coming home. Now there is this issue about like when you join a thing, you run this thing like if you haven't done the work, it can turn into like another toxic conditional love set thing. But reality is I've done my work and I continue to do my work. And the thing that I enjoy about the Balintawak community is it is built on this love of what we do and the love of the community and the love of what G and Bobby has laid out for us, because the ego isn't there. It's fun and it's play. So with that, I'm going to leave you with this, and then we'll have a wonderful day, because this is how I show my love to the community. Funny sequence with the chicken. We have now invented Balintawak. That's wicked. There you go. Hold by the neck. Hold by the neck. There you go. Gotta squeak it.